John, are you there yet?
Just make sure you knock the phone off.
Yeah. Who was dialing him?
He's on, we got him on.
Okay, okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have you here for our July work session. We have one member, John Sweat, who's listening. We have one, Terry Crawford is on vacation. And so Jennifer, I'm sorry you're so lonely down there, but we'll make it through. All right, I have one item I'd like to consider adding to presentations on Thursday. This marks the 5th year of the passing of Sam Leader, and I'd like to have a little remembrance for him Thursday. So if it's okay with council, is there a motion to add that to the agenda? In a second, all in favor, raise your hand. Thank you very much. So we'll add that as item number 3. Just so you'll know, there is not a closed session tonight, so we'll be out of here. Yeah, and also, see what else I gotta do. Cabarrus Summit is going to be July 17th at 5:30 right here, and it's in City Hall. They had a conflict out at the county site. All right, we'll move right into presentations. Number 1 will be Thursday from recognizing July's Parks and Rec Month. Number 2, presentation of fiscal year 2025 annual budget video and a work sessions. Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As council's aware, each year staff works very hard to put together a video of the annual budget, and so this year is no exception. Leslie and her team, along with Lindsay, several folks involved in this production. So without further ado, I'll direct your attention to the screen if we cue that up. I think we're missing the sound.
We're continuously expanding.
There we go.
Concord, where community and opportunity the top cities to move to in the state. Concord is consistently known as one of the best places to live, work, and play. As the 10th largest and 6th fastest growing city in the state, we're continuously expanding, growing, and bustling with energy and new opportunities. Through intentional budgeting and strategic planning, we're shaping a vibrant future for everyone. To support our growing community, the total city budget for fiscal year 2025 is $363.38 million. It includes a 6-cent cut to the property tax rate, making the new property tax rate 42 cents per $100 of valuation. As our boundaries have grown, so has our commitment to building a thriving city. The budget includes funding for 1,241 employees and ensures that our major services are stronger than ever. Let's dive into the numbers and see how our city is setting the standard. For our utility customers, we promise reliability. Despite rising costs, we've kept water and sewer rates stable. Plus, many will see a drop in their electric bills this year as a new rate schedule takes effect. Our commitment to public safety remains unwavering. We're planning a new fire station to enhance our response capabilities, ensuring Concord remains one of the safest places to call home. We're increasing our investment in affordable housing by 13%, dedicating $1.8 million to this effort and partnering with We Build Concord to improve housing availability and foster inclusive communities. Transportation is also getting a boost with an 11% funding increase to $4.4 million. This helps ensure we are prepared to take on projects across the city. Work is underway on the voter-approved Parks and Rec bond projects that will enhance outdoor experiences across the city. This includes new pickleball courts, new playgrounds, our first skate park and pump track, and splash pads. We also continue to dedicate funding for parks and recreation to meet our goal of 30 miles of greenway by 2030. This year, we welcomed a new commercial airline to Concord Padgett Regional Airport. Avelo Airlines began service in Haven, Connecticut, offering affordable and convenient access to the greater New York and New England regions. With growing commercial services, Concord is truly soaring high. Over the last a new strategic plan that will guide decision-making and influence future capital projects and budgets. The plan includes 6 key goals related to developing unique places and destinations, promoting safety, investing in sustainable infrastructure, leveraging communication, delivering efficient government, and boosting economic development. Partnering with our community, we're planning for the future and making investments that will enhance our quality of life and continue our distinction as one of the best cities to live, work, and visit. For more information, visit our website, concordnc.gov/budget.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very nice. Who was the voice? Anybody know? No, make up a story. It was a name that we don't know. Well, that's very good. All right. We'll move on to informational items in the work session. Number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, council earlier this year adopted a new strategic plan, and as part of that, staff has been working really hard to roll this out internal. And so Leslie and Lindsay are going to come forward and kind of present that to council as far as what we're doing at staff level internally to roll out the strategic plan to employees. So Leslie, Lindsay.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, members of Council, Ms. Deason, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky. Tonight, we're here to talk to you a little bit about the strategic plan. So a year ago, I believe this July last year, we started the process for strategic plan in partnership with Central Lina Council of Governments, as well as the departmental staff, our leadership team, as well, and members of the public. So we're just going to take a look at the foundations of that plan. We worked together with Council on developing a new vision statement, which the city had not had before. We have taken our mission statement, adjusted it just a little bit for easier readability, and then we've added some values. Those are up there for your review, and you'll see as we talk through the strategic plan process, those values come through in our mission and our vision. We worked with Public Affairs to develop a concept for how we'll roll this out to staff internally, and Lindsay will talk about that.
Thank you, Leslie. So as you can see here, this is our vision, mission, values board mock-up. These boards you're familiar with, probably the old style. They hang in all of our city facilities, in conference rooms. And so with these being really external facing as well as internal, we really wanted to lean into the Concord branding with the update. So go to the next one, which is a closer look. So you can see we have our Concord red and images from the city. And so all of the departments brought in their boards. We are reusing the hardware, and whatever size they had hanging, they'll get that size back to replace in their facility. Let's see. Going more internal focus with how we're going to roll out our new values, we wanted to have a little bit of fun. So here you can see these value sticker concepts that we came up with. So this is more internal only. These aren't for the public. But as coworkers are adopting our new values of accountability, communication, and teamwork, we recognize that not everybody is in an office environment. So not everybody is seeing them day to day in those buildings, in those conference rooms. So we thought about how can we get it into their hands, into their vehicles, have it front and center for them as well. And so we came up with the sticker idea. And so here it's different designs, different styles. The idea is that what appeals to me may be different than Leslie, may be different than Josh. So everybody can select the one that resonates most with them, and then they can hopefully feel proud to put it on a laptop, a notebook, a water bottle in their vehicle, and it gets out there into the field. And so the idea for these right now is that we're looking to have them ready for our employee picnic in the fall. And staff will be able to pick whichever one speaks to them. Let's see. The only other note about this one, we do have a hallway in the BOC where the ready room is and also the fitness center. And there's 2 time clocks in that hallway as well. So the sticker that you see on the left image is the bottom right. It's the circular Team Concord kind of in a script. It's blue and red in this example. We are putting that really large to put onto the walls. So it's just another way where a lot of our crews, our public works crews, are coming and going in that hallway a lot. So that's a way that they'll see that visual representation of the values. And then for the strategic plan document, this really is for coworkers. This is really going to be our plan. It's going to guide our decisions, our strategies, what we're working on over the next 3 years, influence budget decisions. So we really leaned into the Team Concord concept for this design. So you'll kind of note, we're calling it our playbook, our Team Concord playbook. And you'll see the little playbook design on the front cover. And if you take note of those icons, you're going to see them show up in other areas. So here, when you go through the document, it's pretty short right now, but we have our vision, mission, values. Again, playing into that sports team theme, the ACT, that's supposed to replicate like cheerleaders holding up the boards at a game to have everyone cheer ACT together. And then again, here's those goal icons that you saw on the cover page. And each one though has a different color. So working with the budget team, that's something that was going to be important as we move forward with this plan, having a separate icon and a separate color to designate each goal. And so how those will be used, Leslie's going to get into that a little bit more. But again, you can see here the goal icons, the visuals. As this book gets built out more, as we start reporting on all of the different goals, you'll see that sports playbook icons with the arrows and the lines. That'll be represented by color to match the goals per page as we add reporting on how we're doing on each of those. So Leslie's going to talk a little bit more about that and how she'll use it throughout the implementation process. But again, we leaned into the Team Concord playbook since this is more internal. And then the idea with the Vision, Mission, Values board was really to keep that more timeless and just lean into the city brand. So that's the difference in those concepts.
So one of the important things to us as we built out the brand for strategic plan was trying to make it memorable and relatable so that it's something our coworkers could recognize. So the stickers are going to make the values forefront, and the idea of the sports playbook, you'll see that play out as we build out what this looks like. Each of the goal icons and the colors are here as we build out the budget document and future CIP, as we add positions. Once we start building this into our city functional notes with different leadership team members, you'll start to see all these colors and the icons and the idea of the strategic plan tie the work of the city together. So just a quick look at the future and where we're going with it. This will really start to shape our budgets and our capital improvement plans beginning with the 26 process. So that starts in September this year. And we'll work this year and the coming year to put together metrics for how we report out on those goals. Our leadership team put together strategies for each of the goals. They have an idea of what the tactics will look like. We'll work to finalize those as we go through the next year. We also will try to build that into position requests. So how, if you need a position in a department, how does that help us achieve plan goals? And then as I mentioned before, capital projects, budget requests, those will all begin to tie back to the strategic plan with 26's process. Once we have a full year under our belt, then we will build on the report that you saw using those icons and colors and those schemes to try to report out our progress and monitor how we're doing over the next 3 years. And that's all we have. If there's any questions Lindsay or I could answer, we're happy to.
Okay. Any questions from council? All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, moving to departmental reports. Today we have the Downtown Streetscape Historic Overview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report that is on for the work session this evening is not to take the place of our normal Thursday regular council update on the streetscape as far as the project itself. But this, Jackie's going to go through and talk about kind of the history of the streetscape, kind of where we've been and what's led us up to the point we are now as we're approaching the finish line. So Jackie, if you would.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Deason, Ms. Golchinsky. This is a brief project history, so public involvement and input was solicited for the streetscape project. McGill Associates was approved as the design firm in March of 2020. 11 firms submitted on that proposal for work. So the project was bid August of 21. Only 2 bids were received, so it was rebid. The opening was held of September of 21. Council then awarded the contract in December. Sealand got the contract, and that contract execution was December of 21. The approved design plans were issued to the contractor March of 22, and Sealand was given notice to proceed in May of 22. So the initial timeline, the contract duration was estimated to be 540 days. The original end date was November of 23. I'll just mention briefly the spend rate versus production. So a project of this size and this dollar amount with 540 days that's kind of a tight schedule based on how much infrastructure the contractor can install per day. So I'll briefly discuss how extensions work. So the contract would submit a request for a time extension and then provides evidence to support their case. So this is allowed by Article 4.3.3.2.1 of our City of Concord Standard Form Contract. So we as the owner have the responsibility of reviewing that request. We can ask for more information. There's a bit of back and forth. When both sides come to the agreement on the request, the owner can then grant an extension under Article 4.4.2.2 of the contract. So those days are awarded, but then in the event that the contract time has expired and we have exhausted all extensions, then we can assess liquidated damages. For this contract, that rate is $250 per day per the contract language. So far, this is a snapshot of the unexpected delays and extensions granted. The first one was pretty substantial, so that was 232 days, and that was due to utility conflicts. We've had some 14 days for gate valves, 20 days for bulletin drawing number 3, 40 days, which was recently awarded, that was discussed, additional sanitary sewer work, 5 days for the artwork foundations, and then 4 days for insertion valves.
Before you go any further,
Yes, sir.
utility conflicts. We have so much going on under that street that we have no idea. Is that what happens? Or what happens to cause utility conflicts?
Okay, so I'll try to fill that in as best as I can. So this is an old street. When we're designing the plans, we're going to ask all the utilities to be marked, and that process is facilitated with 811, call before you dig. So lots of private utilities participate in that, public ones as well. So when that ticket is called in, the designer knows they have a certain amount of days for the ticket to be fulfilled, and it's a reporting mechanism. So it'll come back, yep, these were marked, no facilities in the area. During this time frame, 811 had a lot of issues. This was statewide. They've gotten better, and it's something we all pay into, and it's required by law. So At that time, this was not, that process was not very,
So how long should 811 take and how long does it take?
it should take, for a design ticket, 30 days. Sometimes there's clues that they haven't even responded, or the markings are inaccurate. So they've gotten better, but, and you can address that in several ways. You can do pay to perform a soft dig. I suspect there's a utility in the area because I can see a marker on the ground, like a cap, like a water line cap or something, or a little gas line cap. We could pay to perform a soft dig and locate that facility, hire private utility locators. If a duct bank is found, then we really can't perform that movement by ourselves. If it's fiber, that's something that the fiber company is going to need to take care of. So it depends on what the utility is, whether it's transmission versus distribution. So that's a challenge that multiple municipalities have. So 232 days is quite a bit for that, and it was multiple utilities in an old part of town. That is not typical.
Yes, go ahead.
So what I hear you saying too is like, so if I look at insertion valves, which I have no idea what that is, but 4 days, I'm assuming that's probably one piece of the project. Is that correct? Like that this utility conflicts is, I think I just heard you say that, multiple locations, multiple days,
Yes,
right? So,
correct.
okay, that helps with the clarity.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. We still have additional delays to be determined. So we did find an additional duct bank conflict in the intersection. We have had sidewalk slope and grade challenges near Novi Loft. We have additional courthouse work that was not included in the scope. That work must be completed. Cost and additional delays are currently being negotiated. So these are things that we will try to minimize as much as we can. Our tools are, when Sealand presents the additional request, we have the opportunity to negotiate back. I want to touch on rain delays. So work cannot be accomplished during the rain because of risk with unsafe work conditions for the contractor and the public. Material installation and typical operations cannot be performed, such as pipe installation, bedding, grading, asphalt, concrete, paving, because of the water content in the soil, pipe, bedding stone, and select and borrow material. So that means we won't be able to meet our compaction requirements. Concrete and asphalt pavement need to be protected during the rain, during and after the application. So this applies to the day of the rain event and maybe 1 or 2 days after the rain event. So the existing soil conditions of the site remain vulnerable until proper drying can be achieved. So we have natural means to do that, or we can mechanically dry the trench. So open trenches and excavation, they remain vulnerable for safety as well. So rain delays are calculated throughout the project, and at the end, we kind of look at how many rain delays there were. Usually that's a negotiation as well, but we keep excellent records so that we know exactly how many should be awarded to the contractor. Are there any questions
question.
about that? Yep.
A question about rain delays. Were rain delays not built into the original contract of 540 days?
No, sir. Yep, that's additional days to that.
So
So
we
if
assume
it
there
was-
would be no rain during this construction?
And we're assuming that the contractor, that spend rate, right? So he may have another job to do that he really wants to get to. He may not ask for any of the days. We don't know. So it's an estimate. If he gets all his work done and wants to demobilize early, we'll happily take that. But rain delays are in addition to that 540 contract duration. How many do we have accounted for now? I'll have to get that to you. So and it's a moving target because we've had this many, but if it stops raining and then, that number will decrease because but we can keep that, I can provide that information to you.
So the question, when you find a vault that you don't know is there are no GIS records. There's nothing from
No.
50 years ago, 100 years ago and so it's the best guess.
It is the best guess. So we've seen really strange materials that you wouldn't typically see. A lot of construction, the methods have been the same for 100 years, so you kind of know what to expect, but sometimes you don't. So but the product that we're producing, that street is over 100 years old. What we're building today is going to last for the next 100 years. So we're trying to do it right.
Other questions?
I'd just like clarification on that 232 days, which equates to 8 days shy of 8 months, assuming a 30-day month. That was 811?
No, it's not 811 solely, but that is a big factor. The consultant, McGill, they've got these design plans, and they're showing what they think is in the ground. Could they have done a better job bird dogging some of these utilities? I would probably say so.
It seems like to me logically, and I won't get in the weeds with it, but it seems like to me logically that even if, and I'll just choose Windstream for a moment.
Sure.
If they have a vault in the ground, unless that vault is defunct and has been dewired, decommissioned, whatever, for months and months, I can't understand how they don't know that that's there. And so if you're asking them, tell me where your telephone vaults are, unless it's been defunct for 50 or 75 years, how's somebody not accounting for that? And for 8 months, and I know my business is completely different than this business, but when I call 811 to locate, they have to return an answer to me and mark it within 72 business hours. That's 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I understand it's a lot different, but that seems like to me that went really off the tracks.
It seems to me too. That's a long duration for a delay where no work was, could essentially be performed. And I can speak to maybe, once they find something, they have to move one utility, then they have to move another utility. So it's kind of a domino effect. You've got this much space and you've got this many things, and there's certain parameters that we want. We want a certain separation between your water and sewer. So once McGill moves one item, then they have to send it to this group and get approval from the other utilities. Yeah, that works. So utility coordination is a lot of back and forth. That is a huge focus, and there's only more utilities coming in our right of way all the time. So that's something as a city we definitely need to focus on.
And there wasn't a best guess map laid out in the scope of work
No.
before this started. I have said before, I can't imagine a contractor the size of Sealand taking on a project with so many unknowns. I
That's
wouldn't do
true.
it.
Well, and the fact that there was a rebid and we only had 2 bidders is this sign that it's not a desirable.
It's a big sign.
Yeah, it's not a desirable
Right.
project. But we're grateful that they're out there working, and it is going to be a successful project, in the end. And now that we've got all the utilities uncovered, we're taking GIS points of every bend, every valve. So now we will have a wonderful picture of what's in the ground.
Yeah,
moving
but it's
forward.
been at a cost.
Okay, what if we found a vault from Windstream that nobody knew was there and they don't want to move it? What do we do?
So it's our right of way. We could say, Windstream, you have to move. If they say, well, it's going to take us 6 months to design it and then move it, this isn't just like one line, it's a huge duck bank, then we would have that 230-day delay. Like that's sort of one of the things you're balancing when you're thinking about, oh, this was unplanned for, how do we
So how
adjust?
responsive have they been?
I
Very,
can't speak to Windstream, but Statewide, Duke is awful, AT&T is awful. They delay projects all the time. So you'll see when you're driving down a DOT road and you see the utility poles move, and the pole gets set, but then the line doesn't move from the new pole over. That's what's happening. You're waiting on the pole crews done their work, but the linemen have not been out there.
We just can't come in there and just dig it up and take it out, can we?
We can't.
Yeah. Why, I mean, it'd be great if we could, but we can't.
It would be great. It would be great.
Okay.
A lot of times we'll design our wet utilities around movements like that.
I think that those things definitely should have been compensated for or accounted for or some way planned for in a promise of 18 months. It seems like to me, from a business perspective, that put Sealand in a bad place. It's put the city in a bad place. It's put our merchants downtown in a bad place. We can't unring the bell. It is what it is. That's behind us. What I really would like to see, and I'm sure you're going to cover this, is how we're going to wrap this up and get our people downtown back working and back having, customers. Ultimately, that's what needs to happen. It's very interesting that this happened the way it did. I mean, it's almost unbelievable.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
so to try to summarize, we said to folks this was going to take 18 months. It's now been 24 months. When are we going to finish this? I mean, that's a big delay. So when are we going to be done? When can we promise people we'll be done and be held to that?
Well, and from a construction standpoint, done is a relative word. So we have a contract end date, which, we have the hard date, then we're adding these extra days on, so that target's moving out. Then we'll add on rain delays at the very end. So then we'll know the actual drop dead date where we can start assessing liquidated damages. Will that work be done? Hopefully. I think we're on track to do that. And then we have a warranty period. So we're going to get to substantial completion. Tree installation and plantings are going to be after October. The planting season starts at the end of October. So that work may be going on outside of the full contract. And then there's punch list items. So if we do our 6 and 12-month walk and we find a deficiency, we're going to call the contractor back out because we've paid for this item. We want it to perform to this level. So done as far as no more workers, no more hard hats, no more vests. I will say the end of the contract duration plus that year warranty period.
Give me a guess. When is that? I mean, you just used October. Are we going to be substantially finished in October?
I can't predict the rain delays, but I think we're tracking along in October as far as end.
What did you say the contract end date is currently?
Or September, the end of September. But I think by the time we add all these days on, we're going to be into October.
Is that the end of is that the date at the end of their last extension? Is that what you're calling the contract end date? Is the last
For the
extension
approved
they've
extensions,
requested?
the approved extensions, but we have several that are kind of out there being negotiated right now. So I can go back to that slide.
Bill.
Yes, go ahead, Jesse.
Okay.
Jackie, let me come at this a different way.
Yes,
I think I know what Andy's asking. Forget the contract,
gotcha.
forget dates, forget anything. Do we have a schedule from Sealand when they will be substantially complete?
We do.
What
Yes.
date is that?
It's October.
Okay, that's probably not possible, is it?
Not with that the courthouse work, that's going to be additional if we have that perform that.
This is a unit price contract, correct?
It is
What percentage of their estimated units are put in right now?
58%.
And so they've done 58% in 2 years, and in 10 weeks, they're going to complete the other 42%.
Well,
possible.
their spend rate has gone up since I've been here about $100,000 a
I
month.
walked it twice today. There were 16 people on that job. 10 of them were pouring a sidewalk, and 6 of them were electricians. And I think you ought to look at the electricians because they've got a whole lot of conduits with no strings in them, and I know what that means. I think you need a schedule on when this is going to be complete, not any dates, but based on the way they've been putting in units. You know, is it 3 months or is it 6 months? Or the end of the winter again? We need to have a better grasp on what's happening here.
We
There
have a-
is a ton of work to do out there.
There is.
Nothing's finished. There's not 1 square foot of that thing that's the finished product. Nothing. Maybe a little bit of pavers on one end. And then we've got one whole block from Cabarrus to Gavarni that hasn't even started. So it looks like an amazing amount of work. And we're talking about 10 weeks.
I have likened it to a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle that you throw out on your table on your beach vacation, and you put together a corner and a straight edge, and before you know it, you got a beautiful picture that's come together, sometimes really fast. This looks like to me, we've got a corner and a straight edge and a circle and a piece in the middle, and there's no sense made of any of it. I had a customer come into my office the other week, about this, and said, "Have you seen this?" He's working on the roof for Zipline. And he said, "Lori, it's not coming together at all." He said, "I'm watching it from the rooftop and I can't see what's happening." So to your point, JC, absolutely. Friday, I walked through there on a beautiful sunny day. It was 100 degrees, not a soul working. But Lyle's Construction sure had their people busting a move over at the courthouse. They were all working, getting the courthouse rocking and rolling. But there was not a person from Sealand downtown at all. And what a great day that would have been to have worked. So to your point, JC, I'm not feeling September is going to happen.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what's in the contract for a recovery schedule, but you've got a date, a recovery schedule, and you know this is how many of those units have to be put in every week, and somebody needs to be counting it. I've been on a lot of jobs that are this far behind, and it's no fun, but it looks a long ways from completed, just from somebody that's done 40 years of doing that, 40 years. So I don't think we need to be back here in October and then say, well, by the way, we missed it 4 months. I think we need to know now and come clean with what's happening out here so that we can all own up to what we've got. It's all our project, but it's drug on. I got to go back to the original delay. Was that not an electric utility vault that was in the way? Wasn't? Okay. Windstream. Okay.
And to Jackie's point, when those guys find something out there, they have like something that's not on the map. When they find it, they have to stop work. When they find something they didn't know was there,
Yeah.
and then you've got to start calling everybody. Okay, is it yours?
Yeah. But again, the delays are done. The delays are over. So now it's a matter, you got the units and you know how much they got to put in, and you need to know a week from now, they need to have 10% of it in because they've only got 10 weeks left. So it's pretty simple. I mean, it's about as simple a project management as you can do at this point. And if you got to put in 10,000 feet of something in a week and they only put it in 1,000, they ain't gonna be anywhere close. So I just think we need to get a little bit better handle on this. It's really starting to concern us, and we're gonna pay dearly for this if it goes through the winter, dearly.
I have asked the question, is Sealand capable of doing it? And if there are only 16 people out on the street and they're taking Fridays off and they're not working at night and they're not working on Saturdays, I really have my doubts that they have the infrastructure and the capability to finish it. And of late, I've asked those questions. I don't feel it. I just don't feel it.
Okay, any more questions? All right. Thank you. Moving on to public hearings. Dr. Public hearing, consider adopting an ordinance annexing 3.383 acres.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the first 2 public hearings Alden will cover this evening for council.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. The first case tonight is an annexation petition for 17635 Huntersville Concord Road. This is about 3.3 acres. It is currently zoned Cabarrus County low-density residential, and the proposed zoning is City of Concord, C1, CD. Here are the existing conditions. You can see this is on the corner of Poplar Tent Road and Huntersville Concord Road, where the red marking is. That is the location of the parcel. Across Huntersville Concord Road are Skybrook Townhomes, and across Poplar Tent is Brookview. So here is the zoning map. As you can see, this is surrounded by low-density residential, medium-density residential, and county and city. So the 2030 land use plan, this is suburban neighborhood. If this annexation is approved and the rezoning goes through for C1, this would be listed as a corresponding zoning classification and would not need to come back to you for review after going to planning and zoning for zoning placement. We did notify adjacent property owners, recognized neighborhoods and HOAs. We did that in a letter at the end of June, June 26th, and this was also advertised in Independent Tribune on June 30th. So the next steps for this one would be to adopt or deny the annexation. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Yeah, go ahead, JC.
I didn't see anything on what's going to happen with this property. Oh, so what's the end use?
The end use currently is, it's just noted as a commercial shopping center, retail and office space.
So it's just, they're asking for a light commercial. It could be any of the permitted uses in light commercial.
That is correct. But it will be conditional, so it will be site plan approved. So we will know once it goes through rezoning and once those,
After annexation, though.
what, it will be after annexation. That is correct.
Bill,
Absolutely.
so when we send these letters out,
Yes.
what did you tell these people? We're just going to annex this property?
So
No
it
detail.
just says that it is up for, the petition for an annexation has been,
Okay.
asked for, essentially.
Other questions? Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Number 2, conduct a public hearing in case ZCD 23-23, consider adopting an ordinance amending official zoning map.
This is a case for 200, 202, and 206 Wyckoff School Road. This was heard by Planning and Zoning last month on June 18th. This was forwarded to you all as the rezoning request would require a land use plan amendment. The applicant here is Rick Meeks. This is approximately 2.4 acres. It is currently zoned general commercial C2, and they are proposing I1 CD. So where you're looking at the outline here, this is the Concord portion. The part to the north of that is going to be the Kannapolis portion, and this project will straddle those boundaries. This is planned to be a 4-unit mini warehouse self-storage facility, and as I noted, it'll be partially located in Concord and partially located in Kannapolis. So looking at the site here, where the red markings are, you can see in that top left-hand picture, there's a Duke substation there. And this parcel has had difficulty with development because of that substation. So the applicant talked to planning departments in both Concord and Kannapolis to find out if self-storage would be feasible here, and it was concluded that this would be a good place for self-storage. Here's the site plan. The part that is grayed out up top, this would be what is located in Kannapolis. And the one building and then the partial part of the second building would be what is located in Concord. Just to give you a little bit, an idea of the elevations, the buildings would be brick veneer, and then there would be dark bronze trim, downspouts, and roll-up doors. The surrounding zoning on the Concord side, it is surrounded by commercial and industrial. Commercial is allowed in suburban neighborhood, and this is where self-storage was originally allowed. However, since the 2030 land use plan, commercial was removed from that and is now only allowed in industrial.
Okay, back, right there, that to the, looks like to the northwest of that. Is that storage facilities also?
Yes, so the adjacent property is a storage facility, yes.
All right, thank you.
So as self-storage is no longer allowed under commercial and must be zoned industrial, the proposed I-1 zoning is not compatible with the land use plan. However, amending the land use plan to industrial employment would make the I-1 zoning a corresponding classification. When this was presented to Planning and Zoning in June, this was unanimously approved. The statement of consistency that was approved is on the left-hand side, and then the supporting denial is on your right. They also recommended the following conditions as a part of that conditional rezoning. And then the next steps would be to approve or amend the statement of consistency, approve or deny the zoning map amendment with conditions, and approve or deny the land use plan amendment. If there are any questions, I can answer those for you.
What is Kannapolis' status on this?
Say again?
What is Kannapolis' status on this?
So Kannapolis, it will require a special use permit through Kannapolis. The planning director in Kannapolis has asked for it to go through Concord first. If Concord agrees to it, they will take it to their Board of Adjustment. We did talk with them a number of times, and they are on board with the project.
Questions?
And again, this is going to be for storage, mini storage units?
Correct.
So the C2 in Kannapolis, so there's no rezone, so it's allowed by that use, is what?
So in Kannapolis, they will have to get a special use permit for mini storage in that area.
Okay, and so how is that taxed? We just tax one building and then a percent of the other? It doesn't matter, but I'm just curious about that, Valerie. Okay,
Tax assessor
and he just
would-
takes like a percentage of that building or whatever? Okay,
In that part of a building, we'd get taxes off of.
I mean, I think it's gonna, how it shows on the plans and how it's built on the ground are often not exactly the
Right.
same.
right,
So I think that's gonna depend on how it's built on the ground.
that's interesting.
Done this before.
But yeah, I mean, if a piece of it's in the city, then yes, the tax assessor would do, it's worth this much and this portions of it in, and let's do some fractions. So,
We've split apartments before.
yeah,
Charlotte.
absolutely.
Which is why 25, 30 years ago, we moved the road so Concord Mills would not be in Charlotte. Half in Charlotte, half in Concord. I don't know if this matters that much. Other questions? All right, thank you. Number 3, conduct a public hearing, consider adopting an ordinance amending Article 4, environmental land disturbing activities.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Call on Kevin to come forward and present the staff report to council.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. This item is something you see every few years. It's a change to our floodplain requirements based on FEMA's model ordinance. A little bit of background, the engineering department, Clint Schoaf is actually the floodplain administrator for the city. He's our certified floodplain manager. We sort of tag team, help him out, keep the records, keep the ordinance, and so on and so forth. But in terms of some background, in order for citizens of Concord to receive federally backed flood insurance, we're required to adopt a minimum floodplain ordinance and to enforce those provisions as directed by FEMA. And they routinely audit us for compliance, and about every 3 years. And we're also audited by the Community Rating System, which is the same company that works with their fire department to determine fire protection rates. And CRS, after they audit us, they allow for discounted flood insurance within the city limits when we meet certain thresholds. And we have the highest rating we can possibly achieve based on our physical constraints and so on and so forth. So our citizens do receive the lowest flood insurance premiums they can get based on how things work. So again, we've historically received very high scores from FEMA and CRS. At our last audit last year, our FEMA rep recommended that we adopt the most recent FEMA model ordinance to ensure compliance with the federal requirements. And we brought the last one to you, I believe, in September of 2018. So this is a fairly common thing when they change definitions, change procedures, so on and so forth. Basically, this is an overview of our flood hazard areas within the city, the floodway, and the 100-year floodplain. The floodway is the stream channels, floodplain is the areas where in a 100-year storm you would expect the water to come. And we have about 10% of the total land area in the floodplain.
Back for a second. Back for a second.
Okay,
Maybe.
there we go.
So just that striped blue is actually water.
Yeah, that's actually the stream channel and the stream
Stream
banks, which
banks,
in a
yeah.
normal rain area, normal rain event, that area would be underwater and.
Okay.
9.6%.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, you know, and as often as we have inquiries about developing the floodplain, you'd think it was a lot higher. You know, it seems we get a lot of, you know, I think it's a matter of there's a lot of leftover floodplain land that hasn't been developed. So,
Wow.
in terms of the summary of our changes, none of these are changes in the restrictions in the ordinance. They're basically changes of terminology, changes in procedures that we are already doing, and just clarifications and definitions. So the biggest thing that we have done is we've moved all the floodplain-related definitions from Article 14 over to Article 4. Reason being, it's easier to use, and there are separate definitions for structures in our normal ordinance and in Article 4. They mean different things, so we're putting them all in Article 4 just to make it easier. The FEMA attorneys have requested that we put a reference into that we're authorized by the statutes to adopt a flood ordinance. There's an agreement between FEMA and the state that they want us to reference to say that that's how we adopt our floodplain regulations. There are some clarifications of permit requirements, and we have administered our ordinance this way, but we're basically just putting it in writing now. It's when someone has to submit an as-built survey if the building is elevated out of the floodplain, so on and so forth. There's a change in reference for calculating the flood zones. It used to be based on mean sea level, and now it's the North American Vertical Datum, which is a surveying term. And there's expansion of some languages for the as-built certification. The individual flood zones within the 100-year floodplain they've changed names a little bit, and we're changing that. And there are some administrator's duties that the FEMA attorneys wanted us to put in about the Federal Water Pollution Control Act. And there's a reference to a new FEMA technical bulletin about the materials that are required when you build within the floodplain. And these are things that we've always, again, administered this way, but this is just basically putting it in writing. There's some terminology changes regarding mobile homes in the floodplain. There's some cost thresholds for accessory structures, tank inlets, vents, and other very minor clarifications. And we've added an ordinance effective date, which is something that the FEMA attorneys again say that we need to do. So basically, that's it. There's a large markup that was included in your packet that shows all of the changes, and if you look through them, they aren't substantive. It's just a matter of changing words here and there, and Clint Schoaf and I spent a lot of hours going over to make sure that we have it copacetic in terms of compliance. We presented this to the Planning and Zoning Commission in June, and they unanimously recommended approval with the top 2 bullet points. And your next steps would be to consider the text amendment and to approve the statement of consistency and to adopt or not adopt the revisions to the CDO, to Article 4 and 14.
All right.
Any questions?
Questions for council? Everybody okay? All right.
I don't know about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to presentation petition request. Consider adopting a resolution intent to schedule a public hearing in the matter of closing a portion of Evans Street. Now, this is interesting, 0.39 feet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Fred's going to come forward and explain that in detail to council. So Fred, if you would.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor.
Is that
Council.
4 inches?
Yes, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason, the item again before you is a right-of-way closure application for your consideration. The right-of-way in question is a portion of Evans Street, northwest right-of-way, generally located near the intersection of Evans Street and Central Drive. Legal approached planning staff on behalf of the applicants, who happen to be Erica Fulton and Jermaine Lawrence, who are the owners of the home, the existing house located at 636 Central Drive. The house is an older home that was originally built as part of the Lauren Good Park residential development. And a portion of that home, approximately 62.3 square feet, lies within the 50-foot Evans Street right-of-way. This existing encroachment wasn't noticed until the completion of a recent survey of the property. Going back to that .39, that was an error that came across from the applicants, from, I guess, their narrative in their application into this report. So the area in question is 62.3 square feet. That is in conflict
I
with
was
the
actually wrong, I just calculated, that's 5 inches.
Yes, sir. Planning staff solicited comments from the appropriate city staff prior to bringing this petition to council, and no comments were received nor any objections received in response. Additionally, there are no city utilities located within this area of closure, and the property owners have been briefed on the ownership requirements and impact of the closure per the North Carolina general statutes. This next slide is just another depiction of the proposed right-of-way closure, which is shown here by the red cross-hatched area. In regards to your next steps, is to consider adopting a resolution to set the public hearing for August the 8th. And if adopted, staff will conduct a public notice in accordance with the North Carolina general statutes, which will include mail to the adjacent, certified mailings to the adjacent property owners, posting signs on the property, as well as running newspaper ads in the local newspaper for four consecutive weeks. And I'll be glad to take any other additional questions you guys may have.
Questions? All right, thank you. Number 2, consider adopting a resolution authorizing sale of .03 acres.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Steve. We'll cover this item for council this evening.
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. So the city has received an offer from Morris Building LLC, and this map illustrates where Morris Building is. It is what most of you know is the former Bistro building that's been renovated by developer Justin Mueller. They are interested in purchasing a parcel that many people do not know that the city owns. It's a small parcel, it's 1,402 square feet that is along the passageway between Market Street and Union Street. So this map just shows it in relation to Morris Building, and keep that in mind. So this is a survey from the engineering department, city's engineering department. Do note that there is a small area between the city's parcel and the back of the building that goes with the building. It's not owned by the city. So it's from back a sidewalk to that small end. This is a picture. It's where the dumpster's sitting now. If you look, like I said, from back of sidewalk going up to that canopy, it says boutique. It ends just this side of that.
So that's why we had parking signs there for many years.
Yes, sir, there used to be, and this was actually acquired by the city in 1966. I do not know why, but the city's acquired it, and it has historically been used for parking as long as anybody can remember. It's not going to be found in any transportation manual, but it's worked for forever. And that's what the proposal from Morris Building is proposing to acquire, to use it for parking also. And this is their proposal. So covered the purchase. They're offering $7,500 for the parcel. In addition to that, they're proposing to build a 12 by 9 by 8 tall enclosed dumpster on the Morris Building property, not on the city's property, on the Morris Building property. And then they would make that available to businesses along Market Street who wish to cost share in that dumpster. The thought is, not only can it prevent more dumpsters on Market Street, but it could also offer opportunities to eliminate dumpsters and/or rollouts. And if you know, the property owner, he also owns 57 Union Street. He does the same thing in the Bicentennial lot. He owns that dumpster, and he cost shares with businesses that want to participate, and has helped clean the Bicentennial lot up. Probably not enough, but it has made a difference. So he's proposing to do the same thing, which would improve, hopefully improve sanitation, trash along Market Street, and the city's not involved. So Morris Building would use the 1,400 square foot for parking for their residents and guests. Remember, they have 14 apartments. They have what will become Charo's and Sawmill Tavern, which is the plans have been approved for those. So they'll manage all the billing, the maintenance, and the cleaning of the dumpster. City's not involved. The tax value of the property is $33,510. Remember, he's offering $7,500, and it's all, I mean, we'll see, if you accept it, it goes up for upset bid. Now, there are multiple electric underground services on that parcel that will remain, and easements will be in place if you decide to sell. Easements will be in place before it's sold, so it would not be easy to build on. It's so small anyway. It's
About all it can be used for is parking.
about parking. Yes, sir. That's about it. So if you'll remember, the city had a lease for, I want to say it was 10 years with CSI, and we had a dumpster space on CSI's property. And the city didn't manage, the city built the dumpster space, but the bistro managed it, and there were multiple businesses participating, and for a while, the city did too. That has gone away, and the property owner, CSI property owner, does not desire to re-enter into that lease because they're thinking about future development. So that's gone away. Trash, there's always issues in downtown. Trash is one of them, and it's tough to solve. So this is an opportunity to sell the parcel, get a little cash, and Mr. Mueller would construct the dumpster space. Now, if you accept his offer, the city clerk will advertise it, which is required. We'll also notify all the property owners that are adjacent to it. Just make sure that they're aware in case they have an interest. If there's an upset bid or bids, it will come back to you. If there's no upset bid, then the city attorney would proceed with the closure. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Question from council.
I have one. Would you mind going back to that picture that showed the backside of the boutique? That, is it just this area that's right in front of that?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it
And
starts
not the
about-
sidewalk or the area
No, ma'am.
across the sidewalk that's barely visible? How many parking spaces do you think's in that area?
4, maybe
4 or
5
5.
if they're compact, maybe.
And Justin would plan to put the dumpster kind of sort of where it is shown in this picture?
No, the dumpster would go behind what used to be the bistro, which is where Chero's is going.
Is that the sign, is that where the boutique sign is?
No.
The red building on the right.
It's across. Okay, so the dumpster, so he would get that across the sidewalk?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so he's gonna get that area there and then across the sidewalk too?
Yeah, I wish,
I think the
Wish there was a-
idea is he's gonna move the dumpster behind his existing building
Okay,
and use this space to replace the parking that will be taken by the dumpster and enclosure that he already owns.
right. Yeah, he would get, it would be a net gain. He would lose 2 behind the Morris building and gain 4, maybe 5 from the city's parcel. So he has a net gain of 2, maybe 3 spaces by doing this.
And tenants on Market Street could use the dumpsters?
Yes, yes, that is the intent of Mr. Mueller to make that available to anybody along Market Street.
But it would be by agreement, private agreement between
right.
those
He'll-
people.
we're
So
out
The
of
city
it.
would not be involved in that.
Right.
and none of that could be used for handicap parking and access through the alleyway for folks coming to do business on our hopefully finished downtown?
I'm hesitant to say yes because you have the slope through there. You know, just the elevation, it's not, I don't think
Not
it's.
flat, right.
Yeah, it's not flat, it's not ADA. The city is installing 2 or 3 handicap spaces on Barbrick. And then we also are installing handicap spaces in front of Concord Hotel, which have never been present as part of the streetscape. So we're gaining handicap spaces in downtown. I don't think that this would work. And then you also have the difficulty, you're pulling a car in, backing it out. If it's a van,
Right,
there's another degree of difficulty.
right.
I doubt it would work.
Yeah, I was just asking that
Oh, that's
because of
good.
the
Good call.
openness. And would he make it then private? He wouldn't allow anyone that's coming to Charo's or Sawmill to park there? Would it just be for his tenants?
It would be for his tenants and or guests, so however he designates. It could be for Charo's employees.
Whatever he wants to do?
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
because,
ma'am.
okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Other questions?
I have one question. So you said the process is that on Thursday, we vote on this, and then it goes out
To the upset
to
bid.
the upset
Yes,
bid?
ma'am.
Is that how the process normally works?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's one of those with the resolution, if you approve the sale with the resolution, then it'll go, then Kim will advertise it. If you don't want to sell it, you just say, we don't approve it, and it's not for sale.
And
Okay.
piggyback on a question that Laurie had about handicap parking, any consideration about bike parking, bicycle racks for that area? Or do we have somewhere in the plan for downtown?
Yes, ma'am, there's handicap, there's bike parking on Union Street. Of course, there's bike parking outside of our building. Let's see, Novi, all your Novi projects have bike parking. They have most have indoor bike storage also. I'm trying to think, I don't think there's any on Market right now or Barbrick.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3, consider adopting an ordinance amending Concord City Code, Chapter 50.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kaylee's going to come forward and present this item this evening to council.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. The item before you is two parts, kind of going over the encroachment agreement with the city code changes, as well as a new downtown sidewalk design guidelines. If you'll recall from the planning session in February, the idea of the downtown sidewalk design guidelines was brought to you for your recommendation to move forward with those for the downtown area. So first, I'm going to go over the changes to the city code. This is kind of high-level summary of what we've adjusted, and then we'll get into the design guidelines. So for Chapter 50, as far as Article 2 obstructions, Section 5044, simply adding that merchandise can be displayed on sidewalks as long as the business has a permit. For Section 5050, again, you'll see throughout that we previously for encroachment agreements, it was just for sidewalk dining, and now we are adding the addition of retail merchandise display. So we wanted to make that available as well and make sure it was captured in the code as well as the encroachment permit. Just mentioning that sidewalk dining is obviously for the customers of the restaurant only, and the outdoor merchandise display must be related to the retail sold indoors. And then definitions, kind of a same thing in line with some of these changes, wanting to bring in some further definitions for merchandise, barriers, right of way, defining what a retailer is, sidewalk dining, and then adding the unobstructed pedestrian path, which we'll get into with the design guidelines. 5052 for encroachment agreement, again, that language for the retail merchandise. We had already requested a scale drawing site plan, but we didn't include dimensions, so now we're asking that they also include dimensions. And then also another layer of detail is just adding cut sheets or product data for what the furnishings are going to be within the encroached area. And this is the first reference to the new downtown sidewalk design guidelines in this section, just for the businesses that are located within the downtown MSD. 5053, one thing that we did remove instead of adding, there was a requirement that an encroachment, they could only have 50% of your indoor seating capacity outside. We felt like that was restrictive to businesses that maybe didn't have any indoor seating, small shops or bakeries that might want to also add outdoor seating. So we have removed that. And then with the addition of the merchandise displays, just some language along the lines of what's not permitted, mostly relating to not wanting sort of flimsy or non-durable materials out on the sidewalks. With the new streetscape amenities added, specifically on Union, we wanted to add a clear space requirement for things like benches, light poles, public art, raised planters, just to make sure people weren't printing furniture right up against those items. So that's added to 5054. And then again, the next mention of the downtown sidewalk design guidelines is added in 5055, that basically if you don't comply with them, it's a reason that your encroachment could be removed. The last two sections, again, just clarifying language, making sure we're incorporating both sidewalk dining and retail merchandise display. And we've set an effective date of July 29th, just to give staff a little bit of time to get everything up on the website and get things ready to go, let the merchants know about any of the changes. So from there, I'll just kind of go briefly through an overview of those design guidelines. A lot of it is just a visual representation of what's in the code. So reiterating that they apply just to the downtown MSD, because technically the encroachment agreements could be anywhere throughout the city. This is just the sort of table of contents and general overview, how to use the documents. We tried to keep it as simple as possible, but a really user-friendly document for the businesses. So I'm going to focus, though, on the design guideline portion. So one of the sort of adjustments, we always required that there be a pedestrian path left open when you have an encroachment agreement, but now that we'll have wider sidewalks, especially on Union Street, we've increased that to a 5-foot unobstructed pedestrian path where the sidewalks are greater than 10 feet, and we've kept the 4 feet for sidewalks 10 feet or less. Again, going through the items, just that 2-foot clear space requirement with streetscape amenities. And then businesses are not allowed to extend beyond their property line frontage unless they have written approval from the adjacent business and property owner. And so in the next few slides are going to be just visual representations showing that are included in the document to kind of show how this works. So having the furnishings can be against the building. They can also be against the curb. Use these kind of the streetscape design represented on the left, and then on the right is also streetscape, but in an area that we don't have the landscape beds. And then these would be sort of your other streets that are throughout downtown that might be smaller and not have those streetscape updates. Ultimately, wanting to provide the most flexibility for the businesses. So as long as they provide that unobstructed path and it's continuous throughout, they can put their furniture against their building, they can put it against the curb. Under the design requirements, again, in the spirit of flexibility for sidewalk dining, we aren't saying you have to buy this exact piece of furniture. We can certainly help businesses if they'd like some examples that fall in line with the sidewalk dining guidelines, but we are just saying it needs to be commercial grade, durable materials, kept clean and in good conditions. They must be secured or removed daily. And then for merchandise display, similar, just durable materials, things that aren't going to blow over in the wind. With the difference with that is they do have to be removed every day at close of business, which I'm sure is in the best interest of the business as well. And then, of course, just kind of basically covering the standards that fire and emergency access must be maintained with the replacement of furniture in the outdoor area, which is part of the reviewing the site requirements, and accessibility is required as well, following all of your typical codes for buildings. Along with this, we did update the encroachment application to make sure it was incorporating all the other changes. It's now in a digital, user-friendly PDF format. Goes through all of the details that are needed. We have some checklists included in the document as well to help businesses. And then now the applications will come through the planning department first, and then they'll go to legal once we've made sure everything's been included and incorporated and follows the guidelines. And with that, this is the recommendation for Thursday's meeting, if you have any questions.
I saw a fee on that. Is that a one-time fee?
Yes, and it hasn't changed.
And that stays forever?
As long as the business doesn't change hands or any, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, and there is language in there that if they decide to change something about the outdoor furniture and placement, they're supposed to come back to us to notify us about that.
Right, questions?
Okay.
Anything?
I don't have a question, but I think this is a good reminder. I sent you guys those 15 articles this week. I'm sure you've all read them. I know Andy has. And I actually think I sent one to Steve. There was an article in the Realtors magazine about the accessibility and the walking tours they do, and I think it's a good reminder. We have all these rules, but the reason that we have these rules is because we have to make sure that our streets are safe for anyone, especially if someone, needs a little bit more space, and the movability is really important. So I know it's a lot of detail, but I do appreciate the work that's gone into it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Number 4, consider adopting an ordinance amending City Code Ordinances Chapter, wait, yeah, next one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Steve's going to cover this item, kind of similar to the item before, or at least similarly related. So, Steve, if you would.
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. I'm going to discuss the social district. As a refresher, remember you approved 2 of the 3 items with the social district at your February meeting, and that was establishing the ordinance for the district and the map and boundaries. You've already approved that. And what you could not approve that night was the design for the stickers and the signs because it was tied to the branding, which you just approved last meeting. So that's what's driving it. So this is more just information. The social district cups by ABC, they cannot be glass. They have to be 16 ounces or less. And then what we're proposing is the businesses supply their own cups. And this is for maximum flexibility for the businesses. Most cities have this approach. Some do require compostable. I think Plaza Midwood, they just approved it with aluminum. There are costs, substantial costs that can come with that to businesses. So we were proposing the maximum flexibility for the business. And the cups have to have a sticker by ABC, and the sticker has several things on it. One of which is the company, business name, the logo, which this is incorporating the branding logo that was approved like I said, last month, and then the fact that drink responsibly be 21. So this is the proposed social district, the stickers. Like I said, this would be given, the plan is we would buy the first batch of stickers for businesses, and then after that, be up to the business. And the business has to supply their cups, and then after that, then they would print the stickers. And if you go in to get a drink, then they're gonna write the date and the time, and then if you leave the premise, then the person with the cup would have that in there. So if they're approached, say a law enforcement officer, then they can look and see, all right, it was served 30 minutes ago on today. So that's the way the stickers work. So we also are required to have signage for the social district, and the signage would be within the businesses themselves. So you've got three options. Social district, they're sold here, drinks are welcome here, and then no drinks. Now, if a business doesn't post any of these, then by default, there's no drinks. So that's the way it would work. And then these designs would be made available to the businesses for their stickers. And it would just go in the window or the door, somewhere where it's obvious, coming in and out.
How big are those?
Not very big. Yeah, not.
What size they have to be?
No, sir. They just have to be legible and visible in a visible place. The social district signage. So there again, we've incorporated the branding design. These signs would be placed along the boundaries within the social district. And there's three different ones that we're looking at. The main ones are the ones on the left. The secondary boundary could be smaller signs that would be used, like say at an alley, somewhere where you don't need the regular size, where just a smaller sign would suffice. And then the round one that you see is the sidewalk sticker. If there's no place to put a sign, then you can actually put it in the sidewalk. And you see that in some cities. As you're walking down the sidewalk, there'll be that branding sign that is either inlaid or laid on top of the pavers or sidewalk. So there's three different options. Yes, sir.
What in Kannapolis, don't they have sandwich boards for their social district?
They could, yes, sir.
Wondering if we permanently
Yeah,
see the sandwich boards getting moved.
yeah, they can expand the social district real easy with that. Yeah. So this was the sign, this is the boundaries that you proposed, that you adopted in February. This does not change there are a couple of little changes. with the map that we've updated, the boundary's the same, but we've thought about, there are a couple more signs that need to be added. So one of which, I may flip back and forth, the Cabarrus County parking lot on Church Street to McEachern, we added two there. We took away one at Church and Corbin because if you look at it, there's no social district there. It's all governmental. So the sign starts beyond the Cabarrus County Governmental Center. And then there was also one, and I think this was one, I think Mr. McKenzie brought this one up. It was the alley beside of the, it was Memorial Gardens. We added one Memorial Gardens. So before there were 15 signs, now there's 18. We added 4 and deleted 1. But it's just a difference between February and now. We're able to refine and think about, you know, every little detail. So this is the other thought that the staff has as far as the social district. And this would be if you're interested in pushing it back. So the thought was, because of where the sidewalks are now, they're safe. But if we moved it back to October 1st, the sidewalks will be obviously much, much further along within the whole district. There's private investments, Charro, Sawmill Tavern, Gianni's building is drawing interest now, but it's going to require an upfit. The former Lafredo's building is drawing interest, it's going to require an upfit. Swan Loss plans are coming in, that will be an upfit. It's in the Novi Rise. We know those already will be coming online in that October, November timeframe. The encroachment agreements with the facade grants for the furnishings, provided you approve that Kelly just went over, we'll have that. That'll give businesses more time. And then also more time to educate the businesses, the merchants over the next 3 months. For the streetscape, if we stay with August, we just know it is ongoing. Construction fencing may impact some of the egress. And then some of the boundary signage, it's going to be limited, 99% we can put up. But like at Cabarrus, because you've got the construction fences and everything's moving and being reconstructed, then it will be a little difficult, but nothing we can't overcome. And then the new private projects are not complete. So the recommendation is to adopt the social district design and then move the start date back by ordinance to October 1st. Now, if you don't desire to do that, then you would just approve the design with the stickers and signs, and then approve the resolution, which includes the new map for August the 1st, and we'll make it happen. So either way, we're prepared to go forward. If council wants to move forward with social district August 1, we can make it happen. If you want to move it back to October 1st, there's certainly merits for that.
So this is purely our decision?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But we will need the design approved so we can get that to ABC, you know, for the stickers.
Okay. Questions?
I don't have questions, just comment. I do remember we discussed the possibility of moving it back.
Yes, ma'am.
And my opinion is I think that's a good idea at this time. I do have a question about the signs. So the city will provide the signage, right?
Yes, ma'am, the boundary signage.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would counterpoint to Betty. I don't think it's a good idea to move it back. I'm completely for your signage and your map changes. I'm totally fine with that. I'm sure that Paige hears it every day, as do I. Our businesses downtown have suffered immensely through this project. We're not feeling confident that we have an end in sight. We had at last count over 84 comments on our city webpage where we gave a street update, and 95% of those were negative. I think we need to get something going downtown. If that is nothing more than we wear our muddy boots and have a beer truck. and we get people downtown to see that something is happening, that there is movement. Let's squash some of the negativity if we can, and let's do whatever we've got to do to get customers back in these doors of these businesses. I don't want to see another casualty downtown due to this construction. So I feel like the counterpoint to that, I've asked if there's a safety issue in opening August 1st. There doesn't appear to be. I really can see no reason, even if it's on a soft opening, small scale, that we move forward with the August 1st date. But I would definitely support your signage and your mapping.
Other comments? Yes.
Steve, I have a question, and this is maybe part education. So would there, what businesses right now, because I know you mentioned a lot still are not online, but are there businesses right now that would be able to participate in this, or how many is probably an estimate?
I think the last count, Paige is getting that now. I think the
Okay.
last count was 11, I believe.
Okay, so about 11 of the businesses now would be able to take advantage of an August 1st versus an October
Yes, ma'am.
1st, okay. And I don't think, so this changes that part of it, but like if we wanted to do something on the street, right now you can still get a permit for that, and we do like what, the art walk that they used to do and do, I mean, like this just makes it simpler, but that's still possible too. This is just opening up the social district piece of it, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yeah, your special events, they're going to have their own, like, international festival. Yes, ma'am.
That's still going to stay in play. This is not going to change this, even if it's within this footprint.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I would yield to Lori on this. This is in her district. She speaks to the people downtown. And I think the fact that 11 businesses could use it, it makes sense to keep the deadline as it is. And this may not be germane to this topic, but we heard this evening that this is going to be substantially completed in October. Is it legitimate to ask that staff give us a monthly update to that, to know exactly where we are in that process?
We can incorporate that in the monthly report that council gets on Thursday evening, so we'll make sure to add that in there.
But these 11, if we say go for August 1st, can jump right into it.
Yes, yes, sir. It's just however many are ready to participate. If they desire to participate August 1st, you would be making it available, and it would be up to them to participate or not at.
And as Lori's saying, a soft opening.
Yeah, and I don't want to, whenever it goes live, it's live.
I know it's live, but
Yeah.
it's one where you're out there just raising the balloons and everything.
Right, yes, sir.
Are our trash cans still on the streetscape construction?
Some of
So
them.
people walking around, what are we gonna do with these plastic cups? Does it matter?
We've got trash cans throughout downtown, but they're not on Union Street
Not on
because of
Union.
the
Yeah,
construction.
there are towns I've talked to have this, said that's one thing they missed.
Yeah,
It's the biggest challenge.
Biggest challenge.
yeah. That was one of the
Biggest challenge.
things
Yeah.
Jennifer
So we'll make
mentioned.
sure
I think
that-
that's why Plaza Midwood did the aluminum, but they're not doing real well with that either, so.
No, and some with aluminum, they cost about $10.
Yeah.
Right at $10. And then the business, you can't just walk in and say, refill my cup.
Yeah.
Then
That's
they
the
have to wash it. So it's very labor intensive, it's very expensive.
I'd like some idea of what, to make sure, but with 11 businesses, I don't know. I guess we could get into it, and if there's cups everywhere, we'll deal with it.
Well, I just think that we have to have the solution already there based upon all the towns I've talked to. I mean, if we don't, we're gonna be getting it and having to do this, so let's go ahead and resolve that.
Yeah. As long as it's a construction zone through there, you can't put the trash cans.
What about temporary, like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
use at festivals?
Yeah, just a way.
Could. Yeah,
Not
like at the alley entrances, we could do something like that.
We can
The
figure it out,
Bicentennial and the-
just like we figured out lights downtown, we can figure this out.
Yeah, we can have some.
Other comments? All right. I know. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. All right, number 5, consider approving a resolution confirming approval of multifamily housing facility at Coleman Mill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jessica will cover this item this afternoon for council.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. I was hoping I was done coming to you about Coleman Mill, but hopefully this is the last time. So a year ago, on July 13th, you approved a resolution authorizing the financing. Per the IRS guidelines, that means the closing has to happen within a year. Closing has not happened as of yet, and so this is reapproving that same resolution. It's no change to anything in the resolution, it is just reauthorizing it so that they would be in compliance when they do close. As of today, they're planning to close in August, so. They're planning to close in August as of today. So I do not have a specific date, but that was what their attorney told me today. So, but they're not obviously going to close before July 13th, so they need this in order to have the authorization and be in compliance.
And they
This is
are.
like 5 years.
Yeah, it is. It is. And they are working behind the scenes to get the historic property done so they can move forward with that. And it's
taken a while.
This has been tough.
Yeah. But like I said, there's no change to the resolution. It's just reauthorizing the resolution y'all have already approved, just with a new date so that the clock kind of starts over again.
Got an offline down here. They do have sewer, don't they? Didn't we allocate them sewer and they've got their drawings in? Anybody know?
They were prior to the
Yeah, and they had their DRC drawing.
That's the advantage of being around so long, Dad.
But there's an expiration.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Leave
And
the dirt
surely
trail.
they've hit their 2-year expiration.
That's right.
Just bringing up another point that's
Yeah.
going to come back.
Any more questions? All right. Number 6, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate next year's contract addendum to J.D. Goodrum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sheila is going to cover items 6 and 7 for council this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. Before you tonight is the request to authorize the city manager to execute an addendum with J.D. Goodrum Company for additional construction items as a part of the bond project at Dorton Park. The addendum contract is in the amount of $211,901.86. This brings the total to $5,105,093.22. This amount is still below the total construction cost estimate for this project of $6.1 million. The addendum covers 2 additional items. First is the tennis courts. Based on the court's current conditions, it is recommended to do a total replacement on the courts to bring it back up to its standard and to regrade the subsurface, which will allow the water to drain away from the courts, which will improve the longevity of the courts. Moving the water away, what has happened over time, we are in the floodplain and rain. As the courts have water, they freeze, then cracks are formed, then water gets in the cracks and it freezes. So the more water we can move away from the courts, the better the courts will be for longevity and reduce the amount of time needed in between resurfacing. The next item is for the large athletic field. There was a failed storm pipe. It was collapsed, and it's the replacement of that pipe. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
That was an old storm pipe.
Yes, sir. It's a stormwater pipe coming off of York.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Thank you.
All right, the next item.
You got it?
This before you tonight is a request to adopt the resolution authorizing the sale of 900 square feet to Jessica and Vincent Alorondo in the amount of $7,525. The encroachment of the permanent structure was identified when we began surveying the property to prepare for the renovations as a part of the bond project for Gibson Field. The owners requested the opportunity to purchase this section instead of tearing down the structure. In your packet is a picture of the structure and the appraisal that was done on the 900 square feet. The location of this area will not impact the plans for the neighborhood park at Gibson Field as a part of the bond project. If approved, the city manager, city clerk, and city attorney will take all the necessary steps to execute the documents in accordance to the North Carolina statute. Similar to what Steve said earlier, it'll be the upset bid process. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from council? Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 8, consider recognizing St. Andrews Place Homeowners Association.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Rayshawn's going to handle items 8 and 9 for council this evening.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. I'm here today to request council to consider formally recognizing St. Andrews Place HOA into the city's Partnership for Stronger Neighborhood program. Currently, we have 79 officially recognized neighborhoods, and 60 of those neighborhoods are currently active. St. Andrews Place HOA has been in the community and really active for a very long time. They actually meet every month at Fire Station 8. I think since the 90s, the community has been meeting together, so they are now looking to be considered into the Partnerships for Stronger Neighborhoods program. And today, we actually have 2 members of the board, and we also have a representative from the property management company. The board consists of the president, his name is Justin Crow, vice president Christina Perkins, and secretary and treasurer Ms. Sandra Allison. So after completing all of the application requirements, St. Andrews Place is requesting the council consider formally recognizing their neighborhood and accept them into the program. And if approved, the city will have a total of 80 recognized neighborhoods and 61 active.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you very, very much.
And for the next agenda item, for our Partnerships for Stronger Neighborhoods program, one of the perks for being a part of the program is to have access to the Neighborhood Matching Grant. The Neighborhood Matching Grant for fiscal year =25 was released, and applications went out, and we encouraged all active neighborhoods to apply. We received 15 applications, and our grant review committee, which composed of city co-workers that represented 5 different departments. They met on June 11th and reviewed and ranked each application. The application ranking system is based on a 105-point matrix. Out of the 15 applications, we have 13 applications that best met the criteria for funding. In your packet, you can see a full description of all 13 applications that we recommend for funding, and it'll also include each project description and also include some photos. We are asking for council to recommend for the full amount that was allocated in the 2025 budget, which was the full $30,000. For the 2 applications that did not meet the criteria, one of the neighborhoods, which is Brookview, unfortunately did not meet the project completion deadline for their 2024 project. So that disqualified them from applying for next year. And the committee was so grateful to give them additional guidelines on how they can still get the project completed with working with our city staff to get the project done without the funding. So they'll still be able to work on it without the funding from the grant, which is great. The other application that was denied was Roberta Ridge. They actually just joined the program and didn't realize they had to be in the program for 1 year in order to qualify for the funding. So those are the 2 applications that did not qualify, but we are recommending for the 13 projects to be recommended for funding. Thank you. Any questions?
I do have a question.
Mhm.
So in number 8, when St. Andrews Place comes in, if they're voted in on Thursday, their clock begins and they can apply for funds next year?
Yes, they have to be active in the program for a full year. One benefit, which we talked about, they've been meeting at the fire station for many years, and they're so excited to be able to receive a discount and not have to pay the monthly fee and to use that money towards funding.
Good.
They host a lot of events in their community, so they're just excited to partner with us.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Number 10, consider adopting ordinance ordering the demolition of structure at 90 St. James Street Southwest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Hughes is going to cover this item this evening.
Mayor, members of council, Ms. Kolchinsky, Mr. Payne, Ms. Deason. Tonight it is for consideration for adopting an ordinance ordering the demolition of structure located at 90 James Street, owned by Jeremiah Owens Jr. This was a fire loss back from January 27, 2023. The tax value before the fire was $44,160 per Cabarrus County land records, and the inspection was completed by code enforcement. It's a total loss. The case was opened March 15, 2024, and the order to repair or demolish was issued April 2nd, 2024. There's not been anyone to come in compliance to this. There's been no civil penalties imposed on it, and the order to repair or demolish expired on May 2nd, 2024. Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 11, consider adopting ordinance amending Chapter 42 of the City Code.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ian will cover this item this evening for council.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. The proposed ordinance before you today was created to address future requests and unauthorized drone takeoffs and landings on city property. The ordinance will also apply to airplanes and other flying machines. However, kite flying in open areas of city parks is still permitted. I will note that airspace laws are controlled by the FAA and cannot be regulated or enforced by us. So myself, Chief Hughes, and Sheila from Parks and Rec are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Question from council?
So when you say balloons, you're talking about the riding balloons, not balloons like at a
Yeah,
balloon.
not helium-filled
Okay.
balloons. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
So I shouldn't land my plane on some of these places.
You gotta tie a bunch of balloons to your
So-
lawn chair.
See, the lawn chair, that's it, that'll do it. All right, thank you very much. Number 12, consider awarding bid for electric materials, 13,200 feet of 500 MCM.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Caleb from Electric Department will present this to council this evening.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. On June 13th, 2014, Electric System staff received 2 bids for the purchase of 13,200 feet of 500 MCM primary feeder cable. Board States Electric was the lowest bidder at $233,904. Board States Electric met all the required bid specifications. I recommend awarding the bid to Board States Electric in the amount of $233,904 for the primary cable. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Questions? JC?
What is this, 25 kV, or what is this cable?
This is 7240.
7240, 133%?
I'm sorry, what?
133%.
I'm sorry, probably. Any other questions?
I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. 13, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Aviation Management Consulting Group.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Dirk is going to cover actually items 13 and 14 this evening for council.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. I have a request in front of you today, continuing part of the city's strategic plan, specifically Goal 3, if you recall, that's in orange. It should add a little shade of blue, orange or blue, but it's actually Section 2 that deals with evaluate, plan, and invest future mobility. What we're asking today is adoption to move forward with a strategic business plan for the airport. It's one of our requirements within the Federal Aviation Administration to be financially sustainable. We've been working with a consultant along with another company called Mead and Hunt. We are actually approaching 30 years with the airport, so our business model has significantly changed, specifically on the commercial airline side. So we're asking for approval today to enter into agreement for us to conduct this strategic business plan take approximately 12 months. There are approximately 24 tasks, and we actually have some funds that's remaining from our CARES fund balance, and so we're asking move to adopt the budget amendment as well.
Okay, questions?
This may or may not be germane. I took my 6-year-old and 3-year-old grandchild to the Charlotte Overlook Park this morning. It was packed. It is fascinating. You sit at this park and the planes come over you and come under you. I mean, it really is cool. And I don't know if that can be part of the strategic plan, but it was an amazing operation and it was obviously very popular.
Yeah, we would
And
take
if
a look at
anybody
that.
would like to take.
We'll
my
charge
3-year-old
that, okay, so.
If anybody would like to take my 3-year-old and 6-year-old to a park tomorrow, I'll be glad to talk to you about that.
All right. Okay, number 14.
Yes, sir. The last request we have in front of you is work authorization 2402 with Talbot Bright Ellington. This is our construction administration for our fuel farm expansion. We've been working with them, and we've determined that their fees are in accordance with our independent fee estimate that's required within Federal Aviation Administration, and we'd like to move forward with this. The cost of this is $274,634.00.
Questions?
It's a lot of money, I know, but it meets the criteria.
You get more grants than.
I know, it's
just
great.
Mike's.
I try.
Before you step down, I want to thank you and your staff for the work you did with the Careers Leadership Institute. Last week had 22 of the 24 students that are in this come out, and you got a great tour of the airport and be able to see what we do out there and how it operates. So please thank your staff on that.
I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 15, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Southern Engineering and Testing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So calling on Jackie to come back up to present this.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. I would like for you to consider authorizing the city manager to negotiate a contract with Southern Engineering and Testing, PC, to perform material testing and special inspections during the construction of the proposed fleet building. We had an RFQ that was advertised for consulting firms to perform this testing. For the fleet building as required by the Minnie-Brooks Act. The firms are selected on a basis of competence and qualifications for this type of professional services. 9 firms submitted, and we had a review panel, and Southern Engineering and Testing was selected. So we're asking for a not to exceed amount of $150,000 for material testing and inspection for fleet.
Okay, questions? Thank you. Number 16, consider awarding a total bid of City of Concourse Annual Street Preservation Program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Philip will actually cover items 16 and 17 for council this evening.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. This is, again, the award for the total bid for our annual resurfacing preservation program to Fairview Corporation. We advertised these bids and only received 2 on June 25th. I rejected those bids. They were not opened, re-advertised, and received 2 again, with Fairview Corporation being the lowest bid at $4,085,602.95 to count. That is for a total of 19.19 lane miles of resurfacing and 2,000 tons of patching work across the city. So recommendation is to award that bid to Fairview Corporation.
Questions? Are you seeing that you're getting trouble getting bids?
There's just a busy season right now. I think there's a few select contractors that have won a lot of DOT contracts recently.
With all the money
So that kind of hindered the number of them. Although we were actually very pleased with the numbers that came in this time. Our city budget for this was 4.4.
Okay.
So.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So leveling, I have no idea what that is, but my question is, does it have anything to do with fixing where manholes and things have sunk down in the street? Because there's quite a few, especially on Church Street,
So-
around the city.
Yeah, on those roads we're resurfacing, we'll work with our contractors to put in riser rings on the sewer manholes to bring those up to the proper level and tie in the asphalt.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right.
All right, number 17.
All right, number 17 is awarding our annual contract for traffic signal equipment. This is our on-call contract for traffic signals. It's our $150,000 annual contract there as things arise. And ALS was our loan bid quote on this one. It's a unit price quote there as needed. So anything to do with installation of signals, something was knocked down overnight, a full signal rebuild, we would utilize this contractor. So that is our recommendation, to utilize ALS of North Carolina LLC.
Questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
18, consider revised preliminary application from William Jordan's Hall and Margaret Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll call up Jackie again, and she will cover the last three items, 18, 19, and 20 on the regular agenda.
Okay, this is a preliminary application for William Jordan Hall and Margaret Hall. They have submitted an application for sewer service outside the city limits. Their property is located at 520 Crestmont Drive, Southeast Concord, 28205. The property is 4.52 acres. It's an existing single-family residential parcel in the Cabarrus County jurisdiction and is zoned RM-1 in the ETJ. The applicant has expressed that its existing septic system is failing. City water is available to this parcel. However, the existing well is in compliance and is functional, and the applicant wishes to remain on their well. The applicant does not wish to be annexed. The parcel is contiguous to the city limits on two sides. The recommendation is to accept the preliminary application and have the owner proceed to final application, including annexation.
So this is a case where a piece of land is adjacent to the city and has the ability to get water and sewer.
Correct, yes, sir. They are on the sort of the end of the sewer line, the top of it. Some of their neighbors are also contiguous and are next to the sewer and water. Some on the upstream side are not on that same street.
And let me be clear, they don't want to be annexed, but we're saying we're not going to give them sewer unless they are annexed. Is that,
Well, to be perfectly clear, staff's recommendation is to include annexation. The applicants are aware that that's staff's recommendations, and they're saying that they're not opposed to that. They may very well, or they are opposed to that. They do not want to be annexed. They very well may show up Thursday night to speak during public comment to council about that. So ultimately, it's council's decision. This recommendation from staff is consistent with what we have done in the past, is to require annexation because both services are available.
Expand on that a little bit. We deal with these a lot. So if it's contiguous with other city property and has both water and sewer, council is typically asked for annexation or required annexation. Is that?
I think that is accurate. I can't go back to, forever, of course, on that, but I think since I've been here, that has been consistent with what council has said, or the action that council has taken. And the point being, once they have water and sewer, there's really no incentive for them ever to be annexed in the city. So they are getting our services, utility services, and never, having to contribute anything else.
On the other side, the next one's, if there's only water or sewer available, or both is available and it's not contiguous with other parcels, it's a donut, we don't require.
Or it's in a neighborhood, a
Neighborhood.
platted neighborhood, then we can't just make
we
someone
don't.
come out of that neighborhood and be annexed.
Can I add one thing?
I think that's what has created some of the donut holes that we have out in the western part of the county, correct? Like, we were trying to clean those up, that there's been some situations that's created some of those, if I'm not mistaken, that we've kind of revisited that before. I do have a question with them being a flower farm, and this could be a stretch, but I'm thinking like, and this may be a question if they come, from a runoff from a sewer perspective. So let's say they're asking a house and it's a 4-bedroom house. I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, right? But, you know, we're thinking about the house piece of it, but with a flower farm, I would imagine they're doing a whole lot of watering, because I know I'm doing that right now with my garden. So is there also, you know, that could be taken into consideration too, from, you know, that perspective. I don't know, or if that's just going into the land. I don't,
Right, it is being absorbed by their
Okay.
farmland. It's not going to go into the sewer.
okay.
Their usage for the flower farm, I would think, would be much more than their residential, which would probably be why they don't want to switch from
Correct. On the water side.
the
Yes.
well to, and they don't have to, even if say we said, yep, we'll
You have
annex
to
them,
annex.
and they follow through, do not fix their septic, come on city sewer, they still.
They can
you know,
still
they
use
can
the
use
well
that well,
for everything.
as long as it's in compliance.
Okay.
But at any time, they can ask for it to go on city water.
Correct, if they're annexed.
If they're annexed,
Or
if
if
they're
you want to change my recommendation and say.
No.
Okay.
Other questions?
I have a question. Say the annexation doesn't take place, but the service is awarded. Are there any costs? Do they have to pay anything?
They would have to pay, but if you voted to tell them to go to annexation, they can still fix their septic. They could spend money and fix their septic if it's possible. I'm not sure, you know, what the condition is. But if they did want to go ahead and annex and add on to the sewer, they would have to pay those fees. So after your action, I will send a letter so that customer care knows exactly how to handle, you know, their request.
And I think, were you asking if they don't annex and they do, and we award the service? Yes, there are still connection fees that are in the fees and schedules. I
Correct.
Make sure we were all on the same.
Do they then get a monthly bill for sewer service?
It's a small fee, but it's not metered. It's not based on usage. Is that correct?
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, number 19, consider revised preliminary application for Christopher Byrne and Kelly Byrne.
Christopher and Kelly Byrne have submitted a preliminary application for sewer service outside the city limits at 441 Scaly Park Trail, Concord. The property is a 1.01 acre existing single-family residence located within Cabarrus County jurisdiction, zoned LDR. City water is not available to this parcel. The recommendation would be to accept the preliminary application and have the owner proceed to final application phase excluding annexation.
And our sewer goes beside their property.
They have sewer, yes. Water's not available.
Questions? All right, number 20, consider revised preliminary application for John P. and Peggy S. Furr.
John Furr and Peggy Furr have submitted a preliminary application for water service outside the city limits located at 1037 Manassas Drive, Concord 28027. It's a 4.28 acre parcel in Area B of Cabarrus County and is zoned LDR. The applicant is proposing a single-family home. City sanitary sewer is not available to the parcel. The recommendation is for a motion to accept the preliminary application and have the owner proceed to final application phase excluding annexation.
Questions? We covered the base today, with
Yes.
basis between having water and sewer available, having sewer available, and having water available. I don't think we ever have done speed like that back to back. All right, thank you. Consent agenda. Anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda? All right, nothing to remove. Anybody have anything else they want to discuss tonight?
Yes, Mayor, I do.
Go ahead.
I would like to thank, and they're not here tonight, or this afternoon, but the Planning/Community Development Department, Mary and Alicia, for helping me to put on a virtual home buyers workshop on June the 17th. They did a very great job, you know, pulling in resources. We had about 30 participants that participated online. So thank them for that. And to Chief Hughes and Chief Williams, thank you all for sending staff out to support the Juneteenth event on June the 22nd. It was hot, but they endured and were very engaging, you know, with the public. So thank you both.
Okay, very good. And today I gave a proclamation to one of the youngest individuals to get their private pilot license in Concord and North Carolina, who just basically had just turned 17, which is the age you've got to be living here in town, which was pretty exciting. And he came over with his whole family, friends, instructors, airport owner down at Goose Creek Airport, which is south of here, which was really amazing. So we now are the home of the youngest to receive their student pilot, their private pilot certificate. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor, say aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Doesn't count.
Thank you, Mayor.